Hey, welcome back to the Growth and Scaling Podcast. I'm your host, Todd Westra, and today we are diving into the depths of a place that none of us like to think about very often, and that is our own overwhelm. Overwhelm is a huge problem for most entrepreneurs and most executives. How do you get done all the things that you need to get done in the time that you got to get them done in? Well, if you're like me, there's a good chance that the problems you're trying to solve are infinite, meaning they will never end. There will always be new fires to put out and always be new things you need to be putting your time towards. But how are you balancing your time? And so today's guest is amazing. He has a company called the TimeBoss. And I love this guy. Like, this guy's amazing. I've had a couple of offline conversations with him, and he's helped me put perspective on the time that I'm allocating to the things that I do in my business, in my personal, and my spiritual, all the things that I want to be making time for. He is helping me create systems and processes to do that. And this is something that I feel so passionate about, will help my audience learn to be more efficient, better prepared to tackle the challenges they face every day, and also maintain time to be the creative, to be the dad, to be the husband, the spouse, the wife, whatever it is that you need to be in your home front. You can't do a very good job if you don't have the time to do it, right? So take a listen to this episode, and I really want you to dive deep into your own mind, into your own experience. How are you resolving overwhelm? Because unless you have a strategy to do it, the overwhelm just continues to compound, get bigger and more overwhelming. So stop it, kill it, get a strategy, put a plan together, start mapping your time in a way that's going to make you the boss of your time and make you a much better human in all aspects of your life. This is a killer. This is a awesome episode, and I hope that you appreciate the same way I did this conversation. And we'll catch up with you at the end of this episode, but do make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are producing some amazing content that's going to help you, and I do believe that this is an episode that you will probably listen to twice, because the stuff in here is just so good, so meaningful, and so deep, and I hope it helps you. Thanks so much. Hey, welcome back to the show. And today we are going to jump right in to be more timely and more efficient, because that is the theme today. Andrew, would you let us know who you are and what do you do?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Todd. So great to be here. Andrew Hartman. I am the founder and CEO of TimeBoss. We help leaders and teams get the results that they want without overwhelm. That is our primary focus. And the ways that we do that is through group coaching, workshops, and one-on-one coaching to help people get those results. And again, do it all without overwhelm.
I love it. Honestly, overwhelm is a killer.
It's
absolutely
a killer. It is.
So we don't really need to go into why do you do this business, but how do you do this? I mean, how do you build a marketplace around people admitting that they're not as efficient or they're a little more overwhelmed than they'd like to be? What does that look like?
I love what you said, Todd. I love what you said of admitting, because it's really important, right? You know, we look around, we see overwhelm everywhere, right? I was a COO of early stage software companies, and everywhere I looked, people were overwhelmed and burning out. Totally. And so we think when things are common, they're normal. And it's a critical thing for us to understand that just because it's common does not mean it's normal. And so what I found, I mean, really, you know, my process was, I had to first admit, like, there has got to be a way out of this where we can get the results that we want and we can do it without overwhelm. And that was the foundational hypothesis for me for building a product for myself. I was not building a business called TimeBoss. I was trying to solve my own problem. And I think the most powerful products are the ones that actually solve our own problems. Yeah, because we feel the use cases, right? We feel the edges. We are the consumer. The feedback loop is so tight. And so I just started building. So really, a lot of what I do, it's funny how we started, Todd, where you said, hey, we all know we're overwhelmed. We don't need to talk about it. But actually, when I go into businesses, the first thing I help them understand is how much overwhelm is costing them. And they don't even realize, because again, they just think it's table stakes. This is the tax on whatever results we're getting. And so here's what overwhelm does. Overwhelm creates cognitive overload, which in turn impacts the decisions we make. We don't seek creative solutions. We seek very deliberate on-hand solutions, because the average person has 121 items on their to-do list, and they're thinking, I have got to get this off my plate because I got 120 items behind this one. So again, I'm very deliberate in my decision-making. I don't seek creative solutions. I don't collaborate. People are a hindrance because I already feel overwhelmed. I don't have time to go ask Todd for help.
You don't have to teach them. What you need done.
I don't have time to ask Todd for help because Todd might have ideas that are going to take more time than I have anyways. I just need to make the solution happen. I don't have time to delegate because last time I delegated, they did a bad job anyways, and I'm already out of time anyways. So I just have to make it happen. So for all these reasons and more, not to mention multi-focusing, right? Where we try to shuttle through multiple things just to keep all the balls in the air, losing 20 to 40% of our productive time, backed by science. I mean, that is done. At this point, if anyone thinks that they can actually multi-focus and not burn time, they're totally kidding themselves. So
especially if they're male.
Yes. could be true. Could be true. I don't know if the science went into that, but that could be true. So again, my first move when you talk about building a market, Todd, my first move is the knife twist of we have just got to be honest with ourselves that the way that we're operating has real impact on our business. Not to mention the fact that your employees cannot shut their laptops and go home and rest and relax. They go home and they cope with alcohol or food or Netflix or TikTok or whatever, and come back and do it all over the next day. Not to mention they do the same on the weekends. So they're not actually resting and recovering, bringing their best self to work. It's bad in every direction. And so I just twist the knife and help them. And they all know it. Well,
Andrew, this is painfully true. And I'd say for those of you listening, like, this is not just a harp session on Todd, because I mean, this is, I think, everybody's problem, right? I mean, I'm listening to you talk and I'm thinking, I got all that stuff, doctor. Help me out here. Like, what do I got to do next? And so you actually took this and built a business model out of doing this, which I think is exceptional. Correct. And for those of you listening, like, truly, the cost of overwhelm is enormous. And I've felt it. You felt it. Andrew, clearly you felt it. That's why you set out to solve this problem for people. How are you solving the problem for people? Because I think everyone knows that they're overwhelmed and everyone feels it, but very few people do anything about it. Where's the best place to start on this?
Yeah, and it's totally true. You're absolutely right. So the reason why people don't make changes because they don't know what to do. There's no examples on hand of what should I actually do. And so the challenge that we're up against is that all of us are trying to manage infinity. All of our to-do lists are infinite. Our email inboxes are infinite. The problems in our businesses are infinite, which means that simply shoveling faster.
So sad.
It's true, right, Todd? I mean, we're never going to grind to the bottom of our list, but we believe that if we grind to the bottom of the list, we will feel safe, right? It's like there's a fire in our house and we don't know how to sit still until the fire's put out, but it's an infinite fire that will never go out. So what we have to do is we literally have to change the way that we think about work. And it's fascinating. Again, I know that we're talking about scale here. It really is fascinating. The first move is being honest with yourself about how much time you have. And this makes total rational sense. Think about if you had $1 million of capital to deploy in your business. The first thing that you establish is, I have $1 million. That is the amount of capital I have to deploy. When someone raises a fund to go to investment, they only raise so much. And then the question instantly shifts to, how do I deploy this capital in a way that's going to give me the greatest return on my investment? And so the most rational thing we can do with our time is to do the same. I am making a powerful decision myself to say, I have 50 hours a week of income generating activities. Right. Because in the rest of my time, I have kids that I care about. I have a wife that I care about. I have ministries in my church that I care about. I have sports teams that I care about. You name it. Totally. So I'm managing a portfolio. That 50 hours is totally arbitrary. You could say 40, you could say 80. There's people that have done TimeBoss working 80 hours a week, and their hearts are on fire doing the best work of their life. Time has no bearing on overwhelm. It is the way that we approach that. It's the way that we approach that time that impacts us. So if I say,
I like that. I like that perspective. You're saying, look at your time as a fund. You just raised this fund. You've got these limited amount of resources to work with. How do you optimize that resource? And in this case, you're using time as that asset.
just an asset. And so the problem is, the reason why we don't do that is because I look at, I know I've got to answer email, and I know I got to help my team with some problems, and I know I got to call clients, and I really want to grow my business by 25%. And you know what, man, I also really wish I had a better relationship with my daughter. And all these things become fuzzy and jumbled. Whereas if I have $1 million and you tell me you have a $250,000 investment you'd like me to consider, I'm like, okay, that's going to take a fourth of my capital, and I'm going to do something with it. So what we have to do when we approach it, Todd, is we have to get clear on what are all the things. What are all the things that might compete for my time? And it's all those things I mentioned: email, clients, employees, strategic priorities. And we have to realize that they all cost the same thing. They all cost time. But it only works if we actually manufacture that down into units of time that make sense in our world. And what makes sense in our world is literally blocks on our calendar. And we do this all the time, right?
I was going to say, yeah,
we do it all the time. You sent me an invite for this podcast. It's an hour long. I said yes. I made a choice of the hour of my time. So we have the ability to do this. We just have not built the muscle to learn that we can literally do it with our whole world. So I'm not going to block every single email on my calendar. I might say, you know what? For me to stay on top of my email inbox, I need to block an hour on my calendar. And I'm going to get a lot of email done in that time, but I'm going to block an hour. And you know what? I want to be supportive of my team. I'm going to give them 30 minutes every afternoon where they can come ask any question they want. And I'm going to ask them to hold their question until that time if they absolutely can, so that they're protecting my ability to focus, and I'm making sure that their need is getting met. And let's say I want to grow my business by 25%. Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break that down into how do I actually, what are the milestones? And now once I get to milestones, what are the discrete series of tasks that are the leading indicators that are going to lead me to that milestone? I need to block in 2 hours a day of business development calls or partnership calls. And so you'll see we go from these fuzzy things that feel really challenging to manage, and we break those down into assets or units of time that are simply deducting from that portfolio of time that we have. And now all we're doing, Todd, is we're just making a bet. We're just making a bet on what is the best use of that time.
Right. And this is true in so many different parts of your business, because in marketing, marketing's kind of my jam. And when I look at a good campaign, it always spells out the pain, like what you just described.
Right.
But then it also, hey, my time is fuzzy. Here's a 3-step process to actually do that. And all of a sudden, our mortal brains, we just think oh, there's a process. Okay, I can follow 3 steps, right? And 3 steps is kind of the key. And so what you're saying is everything feels fuzzy until you have the time allotted. And you're covering all the things that you have to get done by saying, look, I'm not available for you to just ping me on Slack every time you want to ping me on Slack. Right. But if you come to me between this time and this time, I'm going to give you my time. I'm going to give you my mind, and we are going to work through it together. Exactly. And that clears overwhelm. Definitely.
It's part of the process for sure. So now what happens, as you could probably imagine, Todd, is, so let's say we got it. It is a repeatable system, 6-step process. We run it on a weekly basis. One of the steps is getting it out of your head into a system. Another step is prioritizing. Another step is breaking it down into those units of time that we talked about. And you and I both know, as soon as I load up my calendar, I have buffer in there to deal with reality, because I know I can't perfectly predict everything. You and I both know we're going to run out of time, because our problems and our things to do well exceed the time that we have. And so we're infinite. And so where we feel overwhelmed is that's where the house feels like it's on fire. How can I stop and sit still when I know that room is on fire? I need to go put it out. We have to meticulously deal with those items that don't fit, because in no world are we ever going to get to them anyways, right? We can't multiply more time. And so we have to meticulously go through that list and say, can I just defer it? Can I literally take a vacation for a week from that task and not think about it, and no one's going to die? Right. Yeah, no problem. I wasn't going to get to it anyways. Because what do we do, right? Pull up the yellow notepad of paper, start write down tasks, flip it over, write them again. And we are literally dragging these guilt anchors through life with us that we're never going to get to anyways. So in my system, in TimeBoss, we're simply giving ourselves permission to not think about it. Or, do we delegate it? Is there someone on our team that could take it? And we could certainly talk about how to actually delegate in a way that's effective.
All right. So
Yeah, go ahead.
So what are you doing with TimeBoss then? Is this a matter of like, are you sitting down and helping people work through this? Is it a software tool? Is it like, what
Yeah, I
is the
love it.
executional that you do?
Yep. So it's training and development. So we are equipping people with mental models to think about time, and then we're going with that team. We're mapping it onto the software that they already use. The
Love
most
it.
valuable tool is the one you will actually use, and it's probably the one you're already using. And what do we all think, right? We all saw ChatGPT, and we're like, ChatGPT is going to change my life. I'm going to work 2 hours a day, and it's helpful, right? But the next step fallacy is so real. We think the next app is going to solve our problems. And I believe what solves our problems is us thinking clearly about how time actually works and then mapping that into whatever tools we're already using. ClickUp, Monday, Asana, Microsoft Planner, Google Tasks. It doesn't matter. It's the way you think about those tools that's going to give you the freedom to get your best results and get it without overwhelm.
I love it. You know, it's such a radical mindset shift of like, people always feel like I've got so much to do. I've got so much to do. I
Right.
hear your kid, you know, your kids will say, I've got so much to do. And you're like, really? Like, really?
It's all
You guys,
relative. Yeah.
it's all relative. So how do you get people to, what is the process you walk people through to kind of get everything brain dumped out into a whiteboard or someplace where they can see all the things, and then walk us through that?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing I encourage people to do is to set up a weekly planning meeting. Most people have this. Most people like will look ahead at their calendar and think about that. I just have a very specific agenda that I suggest. So first is committing to that time, with the whole idea being this, that I am the boss of my future self. That's the name. That's where TimeBoss comes from. Like, we have to think of our future self as an employee that we're setting up to be successful.
Right.
And we don't want that person to be overwhelmed. We want them to have the right amount of work. We want them to be able to focus all the things. So in that weekly planning meeting, the second step is getting it out of your head and into a system. And my encouragement to people is to commit to a single system, because what people typically do, there's probably people listening to this podcast now that have Post-it notes all around them. Our brain can only hold 5 to 7 things in active memory. The second we feel number 8, we become afraid, meaning I don't want to lose that thing because it's connected to a result that I want. I need to do that thing, or it's connected to a relationship I care about. I want to show up for that person. And those two feelings create fear. And so we'll either do one of two things. We'll either start hot swapping out number 7 and number 8, number 7, number 8, right? Because we think we think we're working on it when we worry about it. We're not. We're just worrying. Or we start writing things down on pads of paper, on Post-it notes. And when we do that across a variety of venues, we actually make the problem worse, because now we're spreading all that crazy in our head into a variety of locations. So my encouragement to people is to choose a single list. I call it the backlogs. Choose a single list that you will commit to. And the second you think about something, it goes into the backlog. And that becomes that place you trust. Now, if you just did that, you're going to overwhelm yourself, because that thing will be 120 items long, and you're going to feel incredibly guilty. So you just have to continue in the process. So I'm happy. We can go as far as you want, Todd. I can show you the whole process, but that key step is get it out of your head, get into a system. Doesn't even have to be pretty. When I do our workshop, I lead this. It'll be things like, I hate our PTO policy, and what should I do about AI? Not actionable at all, but these are those fuzzy mental models that people are dealing with. That need to get it. You just need it out of your head into a system where you can see it. These things are there.
Well, and you have to block that time to be able to just like, hey, you know what? I need a couple hours to figure this out. Like, do I need to be thinking about this, or should I be thinking about this? But I can't get it out of my mind that I should be thinking about it. So I should probably block a couple hours and do that. Like, I know that there are physiological differences between men and women. And I know that some men are able to focus on maybe 2 or 3 main tasks a day. My wife can somehow miraculously be able to channel like 8 elements of herself to be able to do 8 things really, really well. I can't do that like she can. And so like, how do you encourage people to block their time? Like, are you like hey, make sure you've got 3 hours of creative time doing X, make sure you've got, this much time doing Y? Like, how do you help people kind of do that effectively?
Yeah. So I'm really, as a owner of the framework, I feel very sensitive to the amount of steps, because with any product, someone owns the complexity. Either the customer using the product owns the complexity, or the person that creates it owns the complexity. I'm trying to own the complexity. So I stray away from intense rules about that. And really what I'm trying to create is a platform to start. And what happens when you have a weekly planning meeting is every weekly planning meeting you come back and there's a reflection moment where you say, what should I keep doing? What should I start doing? What should I stop doing? And so if I'm you, Todd, I might say, I need 3 hours of focus for creative time every day. I didn't do it next week. This next week, I'm going to adjust my time to do that. And James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits, the power of tiny changes. They create exponential opportunity over time. So if you return every week to a weekly planning meeting, make that tiny adjustment for you, or your wife makes a different adjustment for her. Right. Every single week you return to that habit and make that tiny adjustment. It's going to be marginally better next week. It's going to be exponentially better 6 months from now because you're tuning your time to work for you. Now, base rules, I suggest to anyone, don't block less than an hour. If you want to do significant work that matters, in the book, Deep Work, it's right here. His name is Cal Newport. I forgot his name for a second. Cal Newport talks about you need at least 20 to 30 minutes to settle into a task, to really have good context where you can bring creative thought. And we do this all the time, right? Like when we go to meetings, we have 30 minutes and hour meetings because it takes us a little bit of time to establish context and discuss and get to the end. So my encouragement to people is to block at least an hour on the low end, 4 hours on the high end, simply because we tend to be pretty poor estimators. We have a pretty poor idea of what we can get done in a day. About a half day is about the most that we can estimate. And it's about the most that we can protect. It's hard to protect long stretches of uninterrupted time for a lot of, especially for scaling businesses where there's a lot of people involved. That's very challenging.
Right.
So I would say that is
this is like coming from the perspective of an administrator or someone who's managing or having to be the creative. Like, I talk to a lot of guys that are like salespeople, for example, and in their case, they don't need to block time for that. They just want to, as soon as they're on, how much time do I need to take, prospect from here to here, from A to B, and then from B to C. And so how do you kind of customize this? It sounds like it's really just a use case. Every use case is a little bit different than the other in how they become more of a time boss.
Yes, the rules at a fundamental level are all the same. It's that my future self is responsible for some outcomes, and I want to set that person up to be successful. Someone in a recurring world, like a sales role where they're doing less strategic initiatives, it's more about how do I architect my week for success? And so I know I am at my finest from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I know my client or my prospects are most likely to answer the phone. Come hell or high water, 8 to 11, nothing else is getting in there. I'm only doing sales calls. So you're architecting your week. Someone that's more strategic, meaning this is often more with senior leaders, visionaries, their value is in thinking. Their value is in nonlinear activities that have exponential results. And so they need to be more thinking about, okay, when am I at my best for thinking? Where do I need to block that into my calendar? What are the specific activities this week that are going to advance the mission that I need to make happen? And so it is a little bit different, but again, the fundamental rules are the same. Our calendar is an expression of our goals and values via the choices we make with those hours. And so we're simply mapping those hours to map back to our goals and values.
Not to mention, if you are an administrative where you are required to block times to think and to strategize and to build those things, if you don't block it, that time's going to get gobbled up by somebody. Somebody's going to walk into your office. Somebody's going to book a time in your calendar, and boom, you just lost creative time for the week.
Yep.
Right?
You're 100% right. Yeah, and it'll happen sporadically, right? It's not you'll I only got 20 minutes here, 10 minutes there. You're not going to make exponential step level decisions for your business in 20 to 30 minutes here and there. It's not going to happen.
Right. Literally, you just described my day. Yeah, today. So I had a couple of blocked hours that just turned into crap. So I feel you.
Yep.
So this is honestly some of the most powerful stuff that every small business owner, in particular small business owners, struggle with the most is how do I control my time? How do I control my overwhelm? How do I get these feelings of balance in my life where my wife is seeing me periodically and my children know my name and I know their name? And, it's like, you literally, if you don't block it, you're not going to make it happen. I remember in my early 20s, I had a business partner, and we were always just trying to outwork each other. We were just stupid 20 somethings trying to build a business. And literally it was like, who showed up at the office first, and then who was there longest, and who was the one that went to go grab lunch that day, and who was the one, like, our wives started teasing us, like, how's your spouse? And because we never saw our wives, and they're like, hey, if you want to like be with your business partner, that's great. We'll go, we're out of here. And it was a subtle hint, and it was a joke, but we did have to start blocking family time.
Yep.
And for us, it made a huge difference when from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. became unobstructed, just focus on the family, make our wives feel special, and they make us feel special, right? And when you block that and they know what to expect, it also decreases the frustration of, I never see my husband anymore, right?
Absolutely. You just keyed on such a key insight. I was saying earlier that you can work 80 hours a week and not feel overwhelmed. And it comes down to two things. One is, does it work for the stakeholders in my life? And so when I was going sideways, it was the exact reason you talked about. It was working late and my wife saying, you're working late again, or my kids wanted to have time with me and I wasn't there. I felt overwhelmed from that because I felt like I was living inconsistent with people that I care about, with the stakeholders.
I love that.
So if you can align it to stakeholders, get permission. And that's not just outside of work. That's even inside of work, where you may think like, you know what, I only want to work 40 hours a week, but your business partner's like, dude, we got to put in 60 or we're not going to be successful. Right. You're going to feel that tension unless you work through that expectation. So it's got to work for the stakeholders. And the other one it has to work for is the story you tell yourself. So if you tell yourself, I'm constantly behind, there's not enough time, I'm letting people down, I'm failing, you're going to be overwhelmed. It's how it is. But if you create a realistic plan for yourself, again, that TimeBoss time once a week, I'm creating a realistic plan that's hard but achievable, and you crush that a week over week, you are going to feel like a conquering hero. And again, you can crank that time up as much as you want, provided it works for the stakeholders in your life. If that story you tell yourself is empowering versus that story you tell yourself is failing. And it's really up to you. It's really up to you.
Love it. Now, honestly, it is a therapy session. I teased about it earlier. This is fantastic. But I know that I've found doing this podcast that the things that really resonate with me do resonate with the people hearing the show. And this is such a powerful, powerful topic. I used to talk extensively about this when I would coach. I do a lot of mentoring of small business owners. And in that, I have found that time management is one of the key components of their being able to produce and perform. And so, how does someone engage with someone like you and with you? And how does what you do, how is it replicatable in a system and process that people can adopt?
Yeah, absolutely. So best thing they can do, go to timeboss.us. They can reach out. We'll spend 30 minutes with you, do a strategy session, just talk about what might be possible. What are the opportunities?
Love it.
Actual engagements are as high touch as one-on-one. They can be in group coaching, either with their specific team or with other leaders from other companies. So we have public courses that people jump in, super powerful, great ways to change if you're just looking to change. And then we also do workshops as well for teams. But that's really how we engage. Yep.
Love it. Well, I love it. I would imagine that you'd be a good plug into any company's workshops and conferences that they're hosting to have you come in and do a workshop in there with their teams. But I'm just going to let them come up with that on their own. But Andrew, I really appreciate the time you spent with us today. And I know time is valuable. But closing this things off, what's the last kind of final step that you would suggest to somebody who's listening to this saying, holy crap, I'm a mess, I'm a disaster, I'm not organized, I don't have a system like he's talking about, I don't use ClickUp, Asana, anything else. What is that first step for them to kind of like,
love it,
just get the load off of them?
Yep. Best thing I recommend to anyone is just separate out your reactive and your intentional time. So right now you're working on your most strategic thing and someone comes and interrupts you and you work on that thing and you work on that for a while, then you go check your email, then you call somebody, then you get back to your strategic thing. and you're overwhelming yourself by the constant switching across those items. So have proactive time set aside scheduled. So maybe it means you don't go into the office until 11 a.m. Or maybe it means you go to Starbucks for a couple hours in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Like you decide, but protect focus time like it is the most precious commodity you have. And then when you have reactive time, just be open. Treat any additional strategic time you get as bonus. But if people need help, help them. Reply to emails, reply to phone calls. But just separating out the expectations of those two times can be so helpful to turn down overwhelm. It doesn't solve for the fact that the list is infinite. Like we can do that next. But at least start making a thoroughfare for you to make progress on your most strategic priorities, and then take that hat off, put your reactive hat on, and be available to other people to help them, because you want to do that as well.
Right. Well, this interview is very important to me. I have been a huge proponent of managing my time better over the last 4 years, 5 years. It's been a big focus for me. And and I've seen a major difference in my life by blocking and also intentionally designing multiple calendar types. For me, that's helpful. I have specific calendars that are family things. I have specific calendars that are travel. I want to kind of know how much of my time is blocked each week for driving to appointments or getting on a plane. And so I think that those kind of things can be helpful. It doesn't mean everyone has to do the same thing. But Andrew, I feel like your message is very powerful. And I feel like those listening are likely struggling with overwhelm. And so I highly encourage all of you to reach out to Andrew and figure out what you can be doing to be the time boss of yourself and make your business happen.
There we go. Love it. Thanks so much, Todd. Great to spend time with you.
Hey, thank you so much. Hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that episode. What did you think? Did you get some nuggets out of there that are going to help you be better and more efficient with your time? I hope you did, because even just having conversations with him, I get a level of peace in my heart and in my mind, knowing that I can do this. I can accomplish the things I need to do, and I can get it done without sacrificing the relationships that matter most to me. So if this is something you want more information on, his details are in the show notes. And I would love for you, though, to ask questions. Give me some thumbs up. Let me know what part of this interview actually gave you some ambition to make some changes in your life. And time allotment, time management, and overwhelm are huge, huge things every business owner should be thinking about. If you're truly in a growth and scaling mode of your business and in your life, you've got to manage your time better. And I do, you do, we all do. And my guess is that even Andrew needs to focus on his own time a little bit better. But I would say he's probably much better than the rest of us. So if you haven't done so already, and you are in a serious growth stage of your business, you need to go to growthreadiness.com and check it out. See if you are actually as ready as you think you are for growth. Maybe growth opportunities are coming and you're just not ready for them. Find out why at growthreadiness.com and check it out. Appreciate you being part of our audience, and we hope we can provide value to you all the day long. So keep on listening and keep letting us know which content you like the best. We'll catch up with you soon. Thanks.